welcome. And today on the show, we are excited to have Derek Rudolph, Chief Technology Officer of Great River Federal Credit Union, joining us. Derek is bringing knowledge, expertise, and experience to the table today, operating in his current capacity at the credit union for over 17 years. Actually, maybe not the current role, but he's been there for over 17 years. But we'll let him tell that side of the story. One of the things I think everyone's going to enjoy about Derek today is listening in about the different tools, the different pieces of technology that he has deployed over his career at Great River. And not only was he one of the first to deploy Invo video banking in branch, but he's also a world record holder at the game of Twister, which I did not know. That may or may not be true. I don't know. We'll hear from Derek himself. Welcome to the podcast, Derek.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. We appreciate you. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't know about where this Twister thing came from, so I guess we'll see where that goes and where that takes us. Maybe we just have to have a demonstration right here to see if it's true.
I feel like I don't want to challenge your superiority at the game of Twister. I'm probably a distant second. Well, I am excited, and I know the insiders are excited to learn more about you today, learn more about what you've been doing in your capacity at Great River. So why don't you start off by telling everyone here a little bit more about yourself, sharing your journey at the credit union, and get in as far in the detail as you would like so that everyone here knows a little bit more about you.
Sounds good. Derek Rudolph, Chief Technology Officer. I've worked at Great River 17 years, the last 4 of which I've been in an executive role as the Chief Technology Officer. Many years before that, I've just been kind of working through the ranks in the realm of technology. I've always worked in the IT department at the credit union, and for most of my career, the technology landscape working at a credit union is much different than it has been recently. There's just been a lot of challenges in credit unions to keep up with technology, and I spent many of my years just trying to make things work. I think back when I started, technology was almost treated like office supplies. So you had to have them. You didn't really want to spend a lot of money on them, but they were there and somebody had to manage them and make sure everything was working. And so a lot of my career was spent doing that. And it made me question, well, is credit unioning, as a lot of people like to say, is that the space for me as someone who likes to be in technology? And the thing is, I always love the people. The people in credit unions have always been the driving factor for me sticking with it. And I always saw a future, but I didn't know where that future was going to take me. I just knew that credit unions were an awesome place to be. I loved working with the people there. I loved the collaborative nature between different credit unions. And so I just kept powering through that and hoping that one day that credit unions would see the light of technology and what it can offer for them and their members. And so, fast forward, so most of my career was spent doing that. I think we finally started to get that little glimpse of, or at least I did, that little glimpse of, hey, technology is actually really cool and we need to start adopting different things. Sometime around the year like 2016, and we started going full speed ahead and revamping our mobile banking, kind of starting to look at different things to do in the branch to make the team more efficient. And we've done a lot since then, a lot since 2016 to kind of change how we see technology and use it to kind of better not only our members' relationship with us, but just better the team in general. And so I think, last few years have been so exciting working in credit unions, and I'm really looking forward to kind of what the future brings, because it just keeps ramping up every year. There's just more opportunities to kind of adopt newer technologies, and maybe sometimes it's a little bit challenging to get everyone on the board with something that's new and shiny, but
sure.
It's still fun. It's still really fun. And I think that's the other aspect of credit unions that I really enjoy, is at least with me and my team, is we have a ton of fun doing what we do.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that passion's contagious. And I've known that about you since you and I have began to talk more and more and work together over the last several years, and we'll get into all of that. But that passion, I think, helps to drive a lot of that, even just from a champion, being a champion of new technology to serve the member. And I think that's pretty obvious as well from the outside as it is internally. All right, real talk here. We're going to ask some hard questions. You have been working with, and the credit union's been working with Invo for several years now. In fact, Great River was one of the very first to adopt and deploy video banking in branch. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was an interesting time because that was kind of when we really weren't sure about where that technology was going to go, and there was a lot of hesitation. Like, do we drastically change how we were doing, you know, basically our entire business model in serving the members, opening up new accounts and loans, because previously we had, you know, one lender in each location and one new account specialist basically in each location to serve all of our members. Sure. And we were running into troubles.
Yeah, very traditional. Very traditional, yep, right?
Exactly. Where one branch, super busy all the time. You couldn't keep up with the members going in. Another branch, you might have, you know, one or two members opening up new accounts here and there, or asking for a loan. And so in order to efficiently serve all those members, we were trying to figure out if this direction of going to a centralized model and then using the video banking to deploy that into the branches, how is our membership going to respond to that? Sure. At that time and even today, we had a generally older membership. And so we were kind of concerned that, well, are they going to think we're just crazy for putting them in front of a video screen? Like what is the response going to be, and how is the team going to get on board with it as well? And so we had all sorts of questions about, you know, is it going to be right for us? And so at that time, me and a couple of my fellow team members, we ended up traveling to different credit unions who were a little bit ahead of us in adopting Invo. And we kind of saw how they did it, and it's like all of a sudden light bulb, like this just makes complete sense. This solves so many of our problems to be able to better serve members. Now the challenge is like how do we get the members to be comfortable with it? And what we found is we ended up kind of making sure every kiosk, every in-branch kiosk that we set up was exactly the same, so that when one of our team members is working with them, we can tell them, here's where this is, here's where this technology is, this is what it looks like, even though they're not there and they haven't seen maybe that particular kiosk. So one, just making sure that the team member is comfortable, but also that there were no challenges with trying to find out what's where, like getting the member kind of maybe taken out of sorts of what's actually going on. But I think the most important part that made it a success for us was not highlighting the technology, which, you know, seems kind of odd. We all want to say, like, look at this brand new cool technology. And we had to kind of convince our team members to say, you know, don't say, hey, we're trying this new thing. We're trying something new and different. Just pretend like it's normal. Pretend like what you're doing is completely normal. And, you know, if you do that, the member will pick up on that and think, well, they do this all the time. So, and what we found is by doing that and just kind of saying, hey, don't worry about the technology. Just get in there and, you know, talk to this team member, which in a lot of cases, they've already worked with the team members that we put in front of them. So they're already familiar with the people, and they just kind of went right into the conversation. And that's kind of what it was all about, is just bringing the member to the conversation. The technology is just there to serve one purpose, and the member doesn't need to be that involved in that purpose. And so we found that to be very helpful.
Yeah, that's great. I don't think I've had anyone explain it to me in that way before. And of course, I've been fortunate enough to hear implementation strategies by the dozen across the country. But I like the mindset of, hey, we're not doing anything ridiculously different. We're not going to revolutionize anything. We're just trying to find how this fits into our existing strategy and not disrupt that strategy. And like you said, it's all about finding a way to just engage with the member which I think is a great mindset. So let's stay there for just a second. The mindset itself. I think that one of the things I am always intrigued by, and I know several that are listening here today might be kind of trying to evaluate this on the front end. I know you talked about being on the the cutting edge, maybe not the bleeding edge, but there's still quite a few that are considering this as even a potential strategy. So what is it like to go into this and have the perspective of it impacting both the member and their experience, but then also the employee in the culture side of that? How did you and the team at Great River take on those challenges and then really find a way to have a winning recipe there? I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And, one of the challenges there is, and just to be frank, some people are not that great on video. And so you have to have the right team. You have to have the right team that knows how, where to look, how to maintain that eye contact, how to maintain the conversation, just be good on video. We had a lot of team members that that was maybe not their, they were maybe more accustomed to a phone or just what to do. Like one thing was, what do you do with your hands? Like what and so we had to go through all these different things about, and I'm not the expert on any of this. So, I mean, don't use me as an example at all, but we had to have these conversations with the team. And one of the things that was really helpful is just during this time, we had started rolling out more of in-branch video calling for team members. And so we were starting to get more accustomed internally about having video calls versus just picking up the phone or having in-person meetings. So we started to transition to more of a kind of a video culture. And I think that kind of helped get people more comfortable with that aspect, because it was a little bit challenging for some people. Also, just with Invo itself, the ability to kind of record the conversations, the video conversations, and be able to review that with team members and help them review it, say, hey, this looks great, but we noticed you're kind of doing this thing or that thing, and here's some advice for you to improve. And so that actually ended up being helpful, not only for us to kind of make sure that conversations were going in the direction that we'd like them to, but also for the team members, so that they can kind of review themselves and get better at it. But it definitely was challenging to get the team on board, probably more so than members. They were a little bit more hesitant to this drastic change.
Interesting.
Internally than members, because the members, you just kind of made it a non-issue. But convincing the team to make it a non-issue and something that they are just doing naturally took a little bit more time. And again, I'll go back to say, you kind of have to have the right people. And so interviewing the right people in the right fashion and kind of determining, is this somebody that, has that video presence, that makes a pretty big difference. But I think internally we ended up having a lot of interviews, video interviews, and we were able to pick out, since we developed an entirely new team for this. So we were able to choose from the team and say, hey, who wants this? And some people really wanted it. Like they really, really wanted to do it. There also is maybe a little bit of incentive in there that you get the chance maybe potentially to work from home.
Sure. That's a good incentive.
Choose that. But that was kind of our approach there, and it took a little time.
I think that's good. Let's contextualize a little bit about the landscape at the credit union. So some of the insiders that are here may not know the deployment scale that you guys have. So why don't you walk out just the branch footprint that you guys have, the video office strategy that you've used, and then just what it looks like to walk into a facility and actually engage into a video banking experience in a kiosk.
Yeah, absolutely. So we currently have 9 locations, and in our physical branch locations, we typically have 2 video rooms or with video kiosks in them. But we also have some locations that are inside grocery stores, and so on those we may have one or two, depending on the capacity of that location. And so when a member walks in, they'll walk up to one of our teller pods. So we've kind of redesigned from going away from the traditional teller line to pods to make
Yeah.
just make it more welcoming. And so it's not like it's, hey, we're back here and the members there, but we're all just kind of in this together. And so
Sure.
From there, then we have iPads where we can check the member in and kind of get them tied up with the team member that may best be able to serve them for what they want or what they're coming in for. So then we'll just walk them right into the member, into the suite, which we have kind of all prepared. We even went through like, well, if you're going to walk into a suite, how do you want it to look? So we have the chairs tilted in the right fashion, everything set up appropriately, and that's what the branch staff is responsible for, just to make sure it's consistent every time and welcoming. And they sit down there, and we actually queue them up in advance. So when they come in and sit down, the team member is already there waiting for them, instead of them sitting in front of like a blank screen that might be running advertisements or something like that. Because we want that direct handoff of here's the member from the branch staff to the individual that's going to help them with their needs today.
What do you call that role in the lobby? That individual who's engaging the member and kind of queuing them up into the video office. Do you guys have a title for that position and what that role is?
We don't have a specific role for that. So the people in the branch, they're member advisors. We did go through a period of time where we had a greeter that would do that role for us. But after COVID and all that craziness that did a number on our branches, we kind of changed it up and went back to something a little bit more traditional, where the member advisors walk the member into the kiosks.
And so those member advisors, can they also then be a teller as well with the new concept of the pod, so they can come out and greet? Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Correct.
I like that. And are you doing that at all locations?
Yes. Yep. All locations are set up in the same fashion.
Yeah, that's great. I love that strategy. We like to refer to that as kind of like a warm handoff experience, right? So you're engaging at a human level, gathering some information, capturing that, and then queuing up the right person or resource on the back end for that video office. I think that probably has helped with adoption too. And maybe I'm making a leap and an assumption there, but having the ability to leverage efficiency through your staff, but keep it personal, and then being able to take your team wherever they may be working remotely, it sounds like in some capacities perhaps, that you're just connecting to the member to the right resource, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That's worked out pretty good for us, and that the warm handoff has definitely been more welcoming for members. We did have a few early on where we sat them down first, and they might sit there for a few minutes. We tried to figure out, well, what can we put in front of them on the screen that might be, interesting for them, to either videos, or maybe we thought, well, should we deploy some games? But what ended up happening is everyone just brought out their phones and sat there, and they were kind of, in their own little world. And so we just kind of started to shift to, well, it's more of a warm handoff, instead of they can sit in the lobby where it's a little bit more comfortable than sitting in this small room enclosed with a screen. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we see all kinds of things, and we love to do those audits of, what are you using to service your members during that waiting period. We had a couple of our team members out in California with an on-site visit last month, and we had no idea somebody was doing this, but they've actually created an interactive quiz in the holding. I call it the holding pattern, but where the marketing and advertising might run until they're brought up in queue, and so it's very high quality graphics and animation, and it's a multiple choice quiz, and it's interactive, so that while the members are waiting, they could do that. But I think that is a great alternative if you're not doing that concierge handoff to queue that member up. I think that's great. Are you guys looking at analytics there as far as wait times or queue times and things like that within the branch, and capturing that data and reviewing that data? Is that anything you guys are looking at?
Yeah, we have been looking at that, and so right now it's about less than 2 minutes for that wait time between the member getting queued up, between them sitting there and getting into the suite. So it's very, very efficient, which we've been very happy with, and we have about, I think across the 9 locations, maybe 175-ish calls a month through the through the suite calls. So yeah, there's been times before we deployed Invo where members might sit there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because there's just nobody available at that branch. So it's been a huge change.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. Are you looking at the scores? I mean, are you capturing survey results or feedback scores from the members after those engagements to ensure that satisfaction or any follow through or pull through there?
Yeah, we're reviewing those, and right now we're at I think it's 4.7 out of 5 stars is what the members are rating us on that. Which
Nice.
of all the different channels that we have, and we send out surveys after every interaction. So anytime a member's in a branch, at the teller pod, or through email, we send out surveys all the time. And currently, the video banking, I mean, it's miles above what our other survey results are. So the members are speaking that they like the interactions. And when we do see some that are maybe a little bit lower, we always dig into them. Look at the recorded video, see what we may have been able to do better, and maybe it's something to coach the team, or maybe we can follow up with the member to see how we can help them better. But overall, they've just been very, very happy with the experience.
Yeah, that's great, and I love that. First of all, you're measuring and capturing that, because that's going to ensure consistency in that experience. But yeah, you should be proud of those scores. I think that's fantastic, without a doubt. Let's take a look back then. So, I think about this landscape as far as an industry goes. When you think about community banks and credit unions servicing, financial needs of customers, it's changed, in my opinion, dramatically in the last 5 years. And I always used to measure this industry in decades, because I would think back to, when an ATM came out, and then when it was, intelligent deposit, and then there was remote deposit capture, and then it was online opening of accounts. And I used to measure all these things by decades, but I feel like that cycle is shrinking. And obviously the world has changed significantly in the last several years. But if in your own personal experience and a look back, what do you think about the last 5 years? When you think about what it was like to service the member 5 years ago, and some of the strategies you already shared, but in your opinion, what do you think have been some of the most dramatic things that have changed from a member's experience with the credit union?
I think the most dramatic thing is that members expect to do business with you how they want to do business with you. Like they don't just like, okay, I'm used to, it's the bank, I got to walk in and do my business that way. We're now kind of up there, competing with all the different mobile apps, and how people do just business in general, and how they utilize their mobile devices and just everything else. We're just kind of competing with all of that. And so when somebody wants to do business with a credit union, they expect it to be the same experience as if they were going to go to Amazon and shop for something. So I think the challenge there is that you have to adopt a lot of different strategies in order to compete with industries that aren't even direct competitors of credit unions. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And it doesn't extend across just a single channel, such as the mobile app. But even when you're doing, some people just prefer to call. Yeah, you have to have that experience. That has to be top notch as well. Some people want to have chat interactions, text. You have to keep up with all the different channels that people are expecting to be able to do business with you. And so, I think that's one of the biggest changes over the past 5 years, is that trying to keep up with how people do business, not even the specific things that you're deploying or even what makes a credit union. It's just, how do you keep up with the needs of individuals today?
Yeah. What do you think has surprised you the most?
I think the adoption of text, like texting. Texting has just, I think back, when I started texting and you had to pay for each text message you sent, but now people, that's like their primary way of communicating, and they want to do business with you over text messaging. And so, I think it's gone. A few years ago, I might have said, well, the adoption of mobile banking and mobile apps, but more recently, just the amount of reliance on people to just want to do business over text is that's been surprising to me.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, and I would even say I probably agree with that analysis. And we launched text last year as a new platform at Invo, and it was by honestly demand, because we were looking at what our clients were doing or what they were looking at, and you were a voice in the room for that as well. And I was a little surprised that was one of. I think I read an article in the American Banker that it was over 90% of financial institutions under 3 billion were text was in the top 3 of things they were looking at. Of course, core is always in there, but digital banking, and then feels like it's something like video banking or ITMs, but text really kind of came out of left field for me. But if I sit down, this is going to be very revealing. But if I sit down and looked at how many marketing texts I probably get a day, it's probably shocking at this point. Now I just almost ignore them. I'll just see it, or I guess I could tell them to stop, to opt out. But this weekend I was ordering something from a new online retailer, and the first thing they asked me was to put my phone number in to receive text messages. Like before I even set my account up, before I even checked out and did business with them, a pop-up came up and asked for that. And then they gave me a coupon, right, for doing that. That's how they incentivize you. But I think text has permeated every single, I think, customer of credit unions or Amazon, to your point, or other retailers as well. Do you think that's going to continue, or do you think that behavior is going to change? And this is obviously a little just guessing. It's an opinion, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll continue for now, but it always makes you wonder what's next, because for a while the same thing that text was doing, email. It's like you'd sign up, you get email marketing, but now everyone's email inboxes, they're just full of spam now, and so email's been started taken over by, everyone wanted to send email marketing, and so now it's hard to keep up with. So I'm kind of wondering, like, well, when is text going to get so overused? What's next? What's the next communication method going to be? And so I don't know. I have no idea what to think of that. But it, just like anything, nothing in technology sticks around forever. So text will have its day someday, but I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah, I saw a statistic earlier, and Ryan will have to hold me accountable to this in the room, but I believe it was 98% of texts are open within 3 minutes, and 90% of emails are opened within 24 hours. Well, I think that says all we need to know about, how you want to reach your customer. And today it's changed significantly. So stay there for a second with me, and technology in general. And one of the pushbacks, I don't know if a pushback is the right word, but anytime I'm engaged in conversations, or if I'm at a convention and I'm talking about technology, and I'm talking about even if Invo tools, or maybe not even Invo tools, but just different digital platforms in general, I get this question asked quite a bit, and that's the role that it plays in the member experience, and how can you leverage technology and solutions to bring the member closer, or maybe to bridge that gap, right? How do you think we continue to make sure that technology plays a positive role in that? And then my follow-up question to that is, how are you doing those things at Great River, or having a focus to make sure you're doing those things at Great River to bring the member closer instead of pushing them away with technology?
Yeah, I think, we've had conversations about this, and a lot of times when we're discussing with different team members, it's like, well, we don't want too much technology where we're not, keeping the direct member relationship in mind. Like, we want to be able to still work with our members, and so I think the biggest thing with that is making sure that when we're implementing technology, the goal shouldn't be the technology. It should be the avenue to bring you closer to the member without having to spend so much time trying to get there. And so a lot of times our team members are, they're using our current systems to help a member accomplish a goal. Well, we want to implement technologies so that they're not spending as much time trying to just do that work, but they're actually able to be either face-to-face, either over text, or whatever method that they want to communicate with the members, that they're available to do that, and not that their time's not being spent just doing other things that are not helping that member or better understanding that member's story. And so, when it comes to choosing technologies, that's a primary goal of us. So for instance, recently we deployed ITMs with video banking on our ITMs, and that was the goal there too, is that when we deploy an ITM into a location, we want that technology to be there so that when a member needs assistance, they can tap a button on that and have a video conversation with one of our team members right away, wherever they are, and well, quite frankly, wherever our team member is. So we're using that technology to bring them together faster, and I think that needs to be the primary goal when we're choosing different technologies. And it can be challenging sometimes because implementing technologies is never or very rarely an easy thing to do. There's always a lot of hurdles, especially at institutions our size. We're not a couple $1 billion credit union, so we have to think about our resources available to do that. And so there's a lot of discussions when we're choosing new technologies and who our partners are and how can they help us get there. And a lot of that is around, well, we have a smaller team, so we're going to need a little bit more help. And so we want partners that are, helping us get there.
Yeah. No, that's great. Let's stay right there for a second. So ITMs, it's if my statistics are still true today, over 90% of our clients that are using some form or fashion of Invo tools are also utilizing ITMs on the retail side of their strategy. So what was that like to identify an ITM partner, to deploy ITMs, and then expand on the strategy a little bit? And when I say strategy, are we talking about you're replacing pneumatic tubes in the drive? Are you doing offsite? Are you doing in the lobby? Kind of unpack the strategy that you started to go down the road at Great River.
Yeah, when it came down to choosing our technology partner initially for ITMs, for one, there's not a lot out there. There's not a lot to choose from. You're funneled down a few different paths. You don't, as
true.
Financial institutions, we just don't have very many choices. And so, a big key in that partnership was determining, well, who's going to work with the best with our existing technology stack. Like we had to consider, well, our core processor, who's willing to work with us to integrate with the core processor. And so we had to ask a lot of those questions because we don't want to revamp our entire technology stack in order to bring on one new partner.
Sure.
And I think that's always a challenge, and typically one of the bigger challenges is trying to figure out, well, who partners with us best from that aspect. Once we got over that hurdle, which was probably the longest hurdle to figure out, we had to figure out, well, how do we then get our members to adopt this? And this was obviously something we did after implementing Invo, and we're like, well, luckily we've kind of done this before, and only in a slightly different fashion. And so again, we decided not to make it not to highlight it, just kind of here's ITMs. We're going to walk a member over to it and start showing them, here, you could do all this on here, and if you need help, you hit that button, and that's it. That's the only thing you got to worry about doing.
That's good.
And so that, I think we still had a couple of additional challenges with ITMs, just because they're just not as quite of a flexible technology as some of the others we've worked with. ATMs have been around a long time, and so there's a lot of hurdles you have to work around in just the architecture of ITMs. But once we got through some of the technical aspects, things have been working really, really well now. And we did so at the same time we deployed the ITMs. We were in the process of building our first new branch that we built in, I don't know how many years. It's been a long time. And in that branch, we chose to go without a pneumatic tube system. So to your point, we wanted to give that a try. And I think one of the things we kind of learned there is that really needs to come after you've had ITMs integrated with your core processing system, because you're just not at that level ready to completely replace everything that a tube system can do until you have your ITMs fully fully decked out with everything they can do to help the member. So we're currently in the process of that, but we kind of took a little step ahead by giving it a try and kind of learn that a little bit the hard way, that, well, if we're going to replace all of this, we need to have all of our ducks in a row. And so it was a very interesting experience. And again, with any new technology, you kind of sometimes you have to take a little bit of a chance on how things are going to go. But in the end, it still turned out to be really good. We've had a lot of members at that location just really thrilled with the fact that I can do all this from this one device. It's fun to see those experiences.
Yeah, that's great. How long ago did you deploy?
We launched the ITMs last year, early last year. So we're still pretty new in the process of those.
Yeah.
And we expect to have the integration done sometime this year.
That's fantastic. And are we talking just the one location, the new location currently, or have you deployed that strategy at other locations or are off premise as well?
We've deployed it to let's see here, like about four different locations currently.
Okay.
Five different locations, and mostly in when we did a few different remodels, and we built 3 new branches between 2020 and 2022. We were starting to deploy them in the new branch locations. So a lot of them are in the like the in-store grocery stores, which is a perfect place for something like an ITM, because you can service members in a lot of different ways with that one device in a small confined location.
Yeah, that's great. I wanted to come back to that. So thank you for kind of transitioning us back to that topic. And you and I haven't even talked that much about this, but the grocery store concept is a concept that we've got a number of clients, as well as what I hope are future clients that we're talking with currently, that have similar strategies in retail stores, like a Walmart or another retail store, even in a mall. We have some clients that are on campus, so on university campuses or in facilities that have 24-hour day staffing, like a hospital scenario, or even manufacturing facilities, right, that they service with large deposit volumes. And they're looking at creating these almost like the micro of a micro branch, right? And so what does that actually look like? We can't take everybody there in person in this moment in time on the podcast, but what does that look like? How did you define what that concept would be for Great River? How do you staff it? What is the experience like for the members when they come in that facility? Kind of just take us on a tour of one of your locations. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So the experience is very similar to one of our branches. We tried to make all the experiences very similar, only obviously the in-store location is just compact. So you have one pod and you have maybe 1 or 2 employees. But the choice of the technologies is kind of what helped us be able to create such a compact location. For example, at the same time we implemented that we were doing this, we started implementing TCRs. So, and the specific TCRs that we started implementing had different auditing features where you could run that location if you needed to with one member advisor or one teller. And so, we chose the technologies around these smaller locations because they really helped you operate extremely efficiency with very few people. And so same with the the ITMs in one of them, for example, if you walk into one of our locations, it's not installed yet, but the ITM will be just to the right of the entrance to the location. So you can either go in and take a few steps further and go to the teller line, or to the right, there'll be an ITM there that'll be able to do pretty much everything that those tellers will be able to do. But the experience itself is very similar to walking into one of our branches, where a member advisor will greet you, and depending on what you need, they may sign you in on an iPad to the suite and walk you over there and do a warm handoff. Or they also, if in one of them we did implement the ITM, and so we've had the member advisors there kind of introduced members there saying, hey, when we're not open, this ITM is available 24/7. They walk them over there and show them how to use it to get the members accustomed to using the technologies that we've implemented.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think I'm going to need to plan a road trip to come up and see this. I'm excited about it. We get asked these questions all the time, just about strategies and how that works. And I love the fact that you've been willing to share some of the feedback from the members. You gave that with the highest rated channel, 4.7 out of 5 stars, which I think is tremendous. We'll celebrate that with you. However, I love the outliers. So can you think of any stories or examples of what great or excellent looks like there? And then also, what does a disaster look like when it comes to in video banking, or even trying to get someone to utilize the tech and then they'd rather set it on fire? I'm curious. What are some of those outlier experiences, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, let me think here a moment. Typically, if people aren't that comfortable with it, we did have, at least early on, a few scenarios where they flat out resisted. They said, no, I'm not doing it. And so we had the branch manager just sit down and work with them and say, okay, well, we're not going to, we'll deal with this another day. Obviously they didn't want to have anything to do with it, but we still wanted to help them. But in some situations, like the technology is like, there's a lot of things going on. Sometimes it just breaks. And so one of the things we have implemented with it is there's a button that pops up that says, need assistance, and they can tap that, just about at any time, and it'll send an alert to the iPad, because one of the challenges with having the technology in these suites and nobody else around is that if an issue occurs, who's going to know about it? And so, the agent may have put the member on hold, and something may have occurred, and so there they can hit need assistance to kind of alert someone in the branch to come help them out, or if they just need a water or a pop or something like that as well. But kind of back to your original question, we haven't had a lot of people that have just been like that ticked off about the tech itself. Usually when people are upset, it's for other reasons. They're dealing with very personal situations in their life, and they're trying to deal with their finances. And so we find a lot of the times the bad reviews have little to do with the technology itself, and more to do with just we're not able to provide the service to that member that we would have liked to. And so maybe that's not quite exactly what you're asking. As far as, I don't think I've seen anyone say, like, take the signature pad and throw it against the screen or something like that and bolt out the door. We have had people get up and leave, though. That's definitely been the one, but I don't think they're leaving us a rating when they're just getting up and leaving. But again, it's very rarely about the technology.
Well, I feel like I should knock on wood after you just verbalize that into existence about throwing a sig pad. Those are not cheap either.
No. Yeah, they'll break the screen too, just like shatter the whole works.
Oh, no. Don't you speak that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Oh, my goodness. I was going back to your statement earlier about what do I do with my hands, right? It's kind of the same thing. Yeah, my head's been in that space the whole time. Oh, what this made me think of, though, I'll try to reel us back in a little bit, is you and I were having some dialogue, outside of this, kind of getting ready for today. And you made a statement that I want to have you expand on. It was that having fun is okay, and don't be afraid to occasionally break something. Now, I need you to explain that and to share a little bit more contextually as to what that means in Derek Rudolph's world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on my team, like, one of the things with technology is a lot of people are too, it can sometimes be intimidating, and you don't want to hit the wrong button or do the wrong thing because you don't know the result that it's going to have. Well, when it comes down to it, at least in my experience, sometimes you got to hit that button and wonder what is it going to do. Now that's maybe not always the best approach when it comes to technology, especially when dealing with financial services. But when we're in the aspect of implementing new technologies and testing things, we very much encourage our team to just try something new with it, try something different. Don't be afraid if the thing that you're going to do causes it to break, because we learn so much more by trying something and it breaking and us fixing it than just not trying that thing at all. And so, we very much encourage the team to just, hey, press that button. Give that change a try. Obviously, again, kind of go back to, well, we have certain circumstances where that's maybe not a possible thing to do, but especially when it comes to doing something, a new technology, and in that implementation phase, like, you have to not be afraid to break it.
Yeah, and sometimes the breaking it is the fun part in and of itself, right?
It is. It very much is. Well, it can also be the frustrating part, but it can be fun in the process. But you do have to be the one that fixes it, and so that's sometimes the challenge. Is you have to be able to trust yourself that, hey, if I break this thing, I'll be able to fix it. And I think once we get our team like past that point, and they understand, okay, well, I've had a lot of wins here, and sometimes when I do this change or do a change and something breaks, at least I'm confident in myself to be able to fix it and move on, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. And I think getting past that point of fear is, it can be a challenge for a lot of people, but it's very rewarding.
Oh man, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a calculated risk. I mean, that's what I hear you saying, in that some of the best rewards come out of those calculated risks of trying something new, but not being afraid to fail. But I think that also speaks to the environment of Great River Federal Credit Union, is that's an attitude that's been fostered, and that you and the leadership team support, is trying things, with the true north, of course, being the member experience, right? And providing the services that you exist to provide, but not being afraid to, and I'll quote our director, one of our directors here on staff, he said, failing forward is always a good thing. And I love that. I mean, if you're trying something new, you're going to fail eventually, but as long as you learn something and move forward, if it wasn't what you intended, you still got to win, right? That's still a win.
Absolutely.
I think so. All right. So if that's the environment at Great River, that roots to one of the questions that I've kind of just wanted to ask, and I'll go ahead and ask it now. But what about Great River would you say is special when you think about the marketplace in which you operate? In almost all of our communities, to be fair, have a lot of financial services options, whether they're national organizations, community banks, community credit unions, digital only. What about Great River is special, you think, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of different financial institutions out there, and a lot of them are trying to do, what we've been trying to do, especially with being technology forward and everything. And it really comes down to the people and their willingness and passion to innovate. I think that's one thing that we've, especially in the past few years, that we've done extremely well, and we have the team that wants to innovate. You don't have people that are, just kind of wanting to do, well, this is my job. You have passionate people that want to innovate everything that they're touching, and that's what I see is special about at least the team at Great River, and something that, if I look at other organizations, you don't always see everyone that's kind of meeting on that same level, that they all want to do that exact same thing. They all want to innovate and provide the best for our members that we possibly can. Usually there's somebody on the team or maybe a group of people that are maybe not so much keen on doing that, but everyone at Great River just wants to put everything forward to innovating.
I think that's great. So when you think about innovation, we've talked a little bit about, Texas, the new hotness right now, or at least it seems that way. What does your crystal ball tell you is next? If you were to say, this is the thing you see emerging, or you see some new technology, and maybe it's not in our industry per se, but you see it starting to permeate retail or commercial sectors, which I think are usually who we fast follow in the financial space. What are you seeing out there that you think might potentially be coming next to the financial space from a technology standpoint?
Well, I think, and it's already been, there's been a lot of solutions out there for this already, but just AI and chat in general. You think about Microsoft recently with Chat GPT. I think there's a lot that's going to change the industry when it comes to automation and artificial intelligence, and it continues to grow. And some of it that I've looked at is like, well, this isn't really that advanced, but it's advancing rapidly, and changing how we do, how we do business. And I think ultimately it's going to be for the better, especially for the member experience, because it's going to provide the team with a lot more tools to service the members quicker. But it's going to be challenging figuring out how do you adopt it effectively and securely.
Yeah, I'm amazed by Chat GPT, and I overheard a story. This is a complete tangent, but I'm gonna go down the road anyway. I was in an AT&T store last week, replacing a very old iPad, and I was sitting there talking to the representative, and just getting super high class service. It was great, but those tables are really close in there, probably too close, so I could hear this conversation going on next to me with a family that was there that was a generation my senior, and they had just fallen into Chat GPT. And the representative that was servicing them, who works for AT&T, went on to tell a story about how he'd used Chat GPT to write his last 4 papers for college. And he said it very boastfully, and I was pretty impressed. And he also shared the grades that he got, which were very good grades as well. So it's interesting to see how that's going to come in, but it does reveal the power that we're harnessing within that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I've, so far the times I've used it, I've just been blown away by, oh, well, I can ask one simple question and get basically entire synopsis of what's going on in this particular space. And I think it's going to, just that type of technology is going to change so many things about how we work. And like you mentioned, papers, which I guess it's the same as if you're writing a paper and you're just Googling it and copying and pasting.
Yes. Yeah. Tools that were not around when either one of us were in school, right? Oh, yeah. So what's next for Great River? And I'm not asking you to share anything that's confidential or proprietary, but what are you looking at next when it comes to either software, innovation, or even, and it may or may not be that next thing with Invo that you're doing outside of that, just in general within the credit union? What is next on the horizon for you when it comes to innovation or servicing the member?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working on a few different things. Enhancing our chat is definitely on the list of things to do, and just our contact center in general, and how we work with our members and help them. Also, just generally looking at the data that we're using to help manage our member relationships. So getting more down the path of building the data warehouse that we need to get all of our analytics together and really help determine how can we help each individual member. And when we do have an interaction with a member, that we actually have a little bit more about their story, so that it helps the team member get information quickly and understand what that member's needs are more readily. So those are some of the things that are kind of more immediately on our agenda. But it's going to be an interesting few years here, especially with all the new technologies that continually come out and having to pivot. One of the things that we've had to do so many times at Great River is pivot what we're doing. COVID happens, we have to pivot. Now, we're having issues with trying to get deposits in, so we're having to pivot and make changes there. There's always challenges, and so it's really hard to determine exactly what we're going to have to be focused on when, at least in these past few years, the changes in the industry are happening more rapidly than ever. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what challenges come up that we're not even thinking of right now.
Yeah, boy, that's for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're getting really close to wrapping this up, which is probably hard to believe. But one of the things that I always like to do before we close is give you an opportunity to share. Is there anything that we haven't dug into today, stories from within the credit union, or advice that you would like to provide to anyone that's here today? I'd like to give you the platform to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking of what is a financial institution, and we've talked about this internally at Great River quite a few times, but we've started to shift our minds that, well, is a credit union, is it something that all you do is offer financial services, or really is a credit union actually a technology company that offers financial services? Because with the amount of technology that we're implementing and how much it weighs on everything we do, where do we spend more of our, strategic dollars and just more of our innovation? And I mean, a loan is a loan, and so we, and deposits and CDs, like all the services we provide, they haven't changed in a long time. Yep. But what has changing about them is how we actually get those services to our members. And the driving factor in that is the technologies that we use. And so it's just something that we've kind of thought of internally and really kind of encompasses, I think, what a financial institution is really becoming to be.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that perspective. And I think you're right. It kind of flips the script on how we approach being a partner, with the financial services for our members. And I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's fantastic. Derek, if you're willing, I would like to extend the opportunity for everyone who's watching and listening to come and visit Great River Federal Credit Union so they can see all the things that you're doing. And so I think you guys would be willing to entertain that. Okay, a great place for you guys to connect with Derek also would be on LinkedIn. So Derek is active on LinkedIn. Go give him a connection invite. Also follow Great River Federal Credit Union on there as well, doing great things. Derek, I can't thank you enough for your time, your insights and expertise that you've shared. I know it's been good for me. I know it's been fantastic for the insiders that have joined us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Everybody, we hope you have a fantastic day. Derek, we'll talk to you soon.